String bending is a topic that many guitar players take for granted a bit because it's such a common technique, but it's one of the most expressive techniques that players can have. And all of our favorite players, if we sit down and listen to them, you can identify them almost immediately by the way they do the string bending techniques, you know, and the vibrato that's usually added on to the string bending techniques makes it pretty obvious to to hear the different players. Everybody has their own style of doing it, and players' personalities come out through those kinds of techniques. Interesting how some of the traditional jazz players didn't use any vibrato, and they didn't use any string bending, or at least not very much, and yet they all had very identifiable sounds. People like Joe Pass, Pat Martino, the amazing Jimmy Bruno, and lots of other great jazz players. But in the rock and the blues and the country genres, string bending is pretty essential for doing a lot of stuff, and it's a very expressive technique. So I want to show you a quick lick that works nicely with clean settings, or also very nice with distortion. And then I want to show you a short exercise that will help your accuracy with bending. And it's a great technique, it's a great exercise, I should say, because it not only develops your accuracy with your fingers, but it also develops your ear really well, because you've got to listen very carefully to what you're doing. And this is something that will help you a lot if you like to play slide guitar. Just the idea of actually closing your eyes and listening to the notes and not trying to look at the fretboard, because with slide guitar, obviously intonation is really important. So some people might say, well, I don't really want to work on something that makes my bending super accurate, because maybe that would defeat the purpose of what I'm doing. But if you listen to a lot of blues players, they sometimes don't always bend the notes directly to the pitch. Oftentimes they will deliberately bend the notes slightly flat, or maybe overbend sometimes. Guys like Eric Johnson, he does that a lot. He'll hit a note and go to bend it and then not get all the way to the pitch, and it's a really interesting technique, and it adds a certain tension, which is a subtle thing, but it's all part of learning how to bend, with some degree of accuracy. So anyways, first thing I'll do is I'll show you this lick, and then I'll show you the exercise. The lick is it's based off of what you need to do is you need to take your D-shaped triad. I hope you can see this. Just your basic D-shaped triad. We'll do this lick in the key of A, so we're going to slide that up to the 9th fret. So to do this lick, all you need to use of this chord is the root and the third. So that's the top two notes. And what you're going to do is you're going to bend those notes up, and you're going to hold them there and then hit the notes while they're bent up and silent, and then you're going to release them. That's the effect. It works good over A. It works in any key. All you have to do is, if you want to be able to visually access that position, you just take that D-shaped triad. You can move it anywhere in the neck, and that'll always give you the position to use for that lick. Another nice way you can embellish that is to you can fade into it with a volume swell, which sounds really nice. You can do it with distortion. That sort of thing. If you listen to some of the modern players, guys like Jimmy Herring, you hear them do some interesting bending that's based on East Indian style intonations, and you hear that with Derek Trucks. He uses that with his with his slide playing. Jimmy Herring does it using different bends and different kinds of techniques, and that's a different kind of technique altogether. But this exercise I'm going to show you will help with that sort of thing if you want to work on that sort of thing. I particularly like Indian music an awful lot, and so I really kind of like to try these kinds of things. Here's the exercise. What you're going to do is you're going to pick a string. Let's pick our, we'll start on the B string. And we're going to go to the D note up there, the 15th fret. And this exercise can be done simply, or you can make it more complicated as you get good at it. And that's what you should do. You should progress with it until you can do more complex ones. So here's the basic one. The basic one is you take that D note at the 15th fret on the B string, and you can use whatever finger you like. I kind of like to use my little finger for some reason. Doesn't matter. Bend it up to the E note, so it's a whole tone. Now what you're going to do is when you get up there, bend it back down incrementally like that. You can pick it each time, or you can just release it, but make sure you stop at each pitch. Use your ears to listen carefully, and you can stop at each pitch when you do that. So once you get a little bit better at that, then you can bend it up there. You can bend it back down, let it release back down in smaller increments. You don't have to use half tones or any of that sort of thing. You can use your ear again, try to break it down into smaller, smaller increments, you know, microtonal bending, I guess you might call it. So here's the way to make it a little more complicated and to maybe improve your bending even more so once you get good with that. What you can do is, I'm going to turn the distortion on now because I've been playing clean way too long. So I'm going to take my A note on the 14th fret of my G string. I'm going to bend it all the way up to the D, so I'm going to bend up a whole fourth here. That's a bit of a stretch. If you got heavy strings, you might have a hard time with that. You don't have to bend that far. You can pick any interval you want, but just as long as you go up there and hit that note and hold it. Now you're going to bend it back down. Bend it down in increments and hold it steady at each increment as you come down. You can split it up into microtones, like I said as before, if you want to get more control. If you do that, you will gain a heck of a lot more control over your intonation. And even though most people think in terms of half tones and whole tones when they're playing electric guitar and stuff, or acoustic guitar too, the microtonal stuff, you might not even know it's there, but when you hear some of your favorite players, they're doing that subconsciously, probably, a lot of them, but it gives you that effect. So that's the exercise. You can use whatever intervals you want to, but the idea is to do a controlled release of the bends. Or you can go up as well, as high as you want. And I believe that's all that I have to say about that. But you can play around with that technique and see what happens. So next time we're going to look at some slide guitar. Slide guitar is great because it allows you to do all kinds of pitch manipulations that you can't really do with your fingers. And then we'll look at some other things down the road. So thanks a lot and have fun with those bends.